Why do the video conferencing presentations of some lawyers look a little more polished than others? Well, it turns out it's complicated.
Hey folks, today's topic is actually off topic for us, but it's something I think we can help folks with because we've been getting some requests for help about it. And it's for my lawyer brothers and sisters who are now having to contemplate going into a courtroom in a contested hearing by video conference, not just using a video conferencing platform like Zoom to collaborate internally in your office or to create a virtual office while everyone has to work at home, but to have an outward-facing presentation to your video conferencing skills that are going to be the thing that will reflect credit on you and your advocacy for our clients. It takes a different level of polish to go from what I call that casual Friday Zoom from my spare office look and feel to being an outward-facing presentation that's appropriate for a courtroom and a contested hearing. And you're going to want that professional polish in your presentations. The nature of our practice has caused us to be going into courtrooms by video conference platform for a couple of years now. And we learned a lot of things. We had a learning curve. And there are just two or three things that I wish I had more awareness of 2 or 3 years ago when we started this transition and went through our learning curve to have a more outward-facing video conference presentation. Hopefully, if I can just share those with you, it will shorten your own learning curve and help you get to the other side a lot more quickly. Still a lot of work you're going to have to do on your own, but I can at least hopefully steer you into some subjects that you're going to need to touch upon to figure out why does some other presentation look so much better than mine. So when I sign off with this part of the episode, it will be to get up and go home and do what everyone else all over the country is doing, which is transitioning to a home office. This is going to be my last day in the office for a while. And I'm going to have to replicate at home this same video conferencing kit that I'm using right now to record this. We have a much more sophisticated kit that we use to make educational videos with better cameras and better sound equipment. But this kit that you're seeing this on now is what we use routinely to project into a courtroom. I have to be at a monitor to pick the evidence that I want to put up in front of the judge when I'm talking about a subject, or play an excerpt of a video, or whatever the requirements are to project through the video conferencing platform. I'm going to set this little kit up at home and I'll do it with you, and we'll see how it turns out. So see you back at the house.
So on the way home, let's go ahead and knock out practice tip number 1, which is the most important one. And if there's only one thing that you take away from this entire episode, it would be this: sound is 10 times more important than video. I would say that 10 times in a row to make a point, but I would lose you. So let me just say it one more time a different way. Your voice is 10 times more impactful than the little 2-inch by 2-inch image of you that's going to appear on the judge's screen. If you ever have to make a choice between the quality of your sound and the quality of your video, always choose audio quality over video quality. And sometimes you will have to make that choice because video consumes a whole order of magnitude more bandwidth than audio does. And sometimes if you have a poor connection, a poor internet speed, like in a hotel room, you should just give up the video feed altogether so that all of that bandwidth just remains available for the clarity of your voice. This is a function of the fact that our brains are just hardwired to primarily process abstract information through language. And when that medium is filled with distracting artifact, it frustrates the mind's ability to concentrate on the concept and the thought. So the takeaway is this: the biggest bang for your buck and the biggest payoff for your initial efforts to improve the overall quality of your video conferencing presentation is improving the quality of your sound. Practice tip number 2, lighting and composition. A distant second to quality sound is the importance of composition and lighting. But when it comes to courtroom work, it might be better to start with the old physician's maxim, which is, first, do no harm. After a lot of hours of motion practice by video conference, you realize that our small image on the judge's screen is less important than we perceive it to be ourselves. On Zoom, if you simply don't have a good setup for video, the little red slash over the start button icon can be your best friend. Don't be so compelled to use video if it's just not a good fit. On the profile settings in Zoom, instead of your firm logo, you can upload your professional headshot so that whenever you turn off your video feed, the judge's screen looks like this. And there are worse things than looking like this, like maybe looking like this. So, if you simply don't have a good setup, don't hesitate to turn off your video feed altogether and let your profile picture be your proxy in the courtroom. When you're ready to turn your efforts to improving the aesthetics of your visual image, there's a look you're going for, and we all know what that look is. It's the talking head look. It's not sophisticated in terms of its composition, but it's not entirely easy to pull off. To execute the talking head setup, you're going to need 3 things: a sterile background, a vlogging kit, and it can be a simple one, and supplemental lighting. And you're going to need each of those things. All of them are necessary. For most of us working at home now, a sterile background is just going to be aspirational. And the same can be said for most of our office workspaces as well. But just remember that everything in the image, other than you, is an unnecessary distraction in the courtroom context. If it's really hopeless that way, you can always get one of those backdrop screens that videographers bring to depositions. The second thing you'll need is a vlogging kit. And thanks to thousands of millennials running channels on YouTube, there are lots of very affordable and very capable products that will support everything you would ever need to do using a platform like Zoom in the courtroom. Like a little point and shoot camera, they're designed to make most all of the right choices for you. Automatic focusing on facial recognition, automatic exposure, automatic white balance. And if none of those terms mean much to you, it's just another good reason to use one. So let's just plug it into the computer and see what it looks like. So here we are, right out of the box with 2 of our 3 components that we need. We found 3 feet of blank wall space for our neutral backdrop. We set up our vlogging kit right out of the box, plugged it right into the computer, didn't change any of the default settings, just as it came. And this is what we have so far with 2 out of the 3. Still, this is the middle of the afternoon and I'm sitting in front of 2 open windows, and it's really not enough. What I still need is that third component, which is some light. And look what it did to the quality of the image. When the camera is trying to make an acceptable image in very low light circumstances, it has to make compromises for image quality
in order to capture a low light image. So when you flood yourself with some supplemental light and the camera doesn't work so hard, it has more capacity to give a higher quality image. Lighting is where most folks come up short when it comes to the aesthetics of their outward-facing video conferencing. And broadcasting in front of a bright light source, like a window, is one of the most common mistakes. If the folks in this image were to simply switch places with a camera, they could take advantage of the absolute best light source for our purposes, which is indirect and diffuse natural light coming through a window. Cameras just love this kind of light, and diffuse natural light flatters a subject's image like no other light can. But natural light from a window can be fickle, and it's not always going to be there for you. So if a professional studio photographer were to come to your house to set up your video conference call into a courtroom, she would illuminate you with at least two sources of soft, diffuse light positioned behind and on either side of the camera and at a height slightly above your head. This is essentially the same setup used to create those photographs we have made to put up on our websites. You can imitate this kind of light source at home just by using a lamp that has a lampshade. Here's a neat, inexpensive gadget you can use to usually provide just enough light to make things a whole lot better. They're even small enough to travel with. If you're stuck at home right now with just a laptop and its installed webcam, try to elevate the camera to the level of your eyes and do the best you can with all three of the elements we've talked about: a non-distracting background, a decent camera and microphone, and some supplemental lighting. You'll look just fine. Practice tip number 3. Zoom is a storytelling engine. I think the greatest strength of Zoom for motion practice in the courtroom is its ability to seamlessly publish media in support of your argument. I've had many Zoom hearings where I actually thought the presentation over Zoom may have been even more effective than if I had tried to execute the same presentation using any of the clunky media resources that the vast majority of courtrooms still rely on. As soon as you can master your skills with it, you need to move beyond simply using Zoom as a talking head platform and start using it as a storytelling platform where you can show, explain, and communicate the story that forms the factual subject matter of your hearing. To do this well is going to require proficiency with some of the platform's more advanced features. And there's no better place to learn this than the help section on Zoom's own webpage. You'll immediately spot features that will be perfect solutions to the things you'd like to do in a courtroom setting. Before you try something fancy for the first time, it's easy to set up a dress rehearsal of your courtroom plan by sending a Zoom invitation to your personal email address, joining the meeting on another device sitting next to your primary screen, and then watching what your presentation looks like to another participant. Until you're comfortable publishing documents, publishing media, even calling live witnesses, you won't be exploiting all of the potential for effective motion practice by video conference. So there you are. Those are the 3 things we've been emphasizing to our colleagues when they ask us about our experience conducting motion practice by Zoom. Make sure your sound is great, and speakerphones in a conference room are not great. A handset is best, even if it's a cell phone. Be a good talking head. If you need to be, you can literally be a talking head by using your professional portrait as your Zoom avatar. If you go live, you'll do best with a background that's not distracting, a modest little vlogging kit, and some soft, diffuse supplemental light. Finally,
Move beyond being a talking head altogether and let all of Zoom's other features help you tell your client's story in the courtroom. We're a small firm and we have a very niche practice. We provide electronic discovery support in complex lit. Our firm's lawyers are dispersed geographically, and our own path to motion practice by video conferencing began years ago as a natural progression of what we needed to do. Like many small businesses, we started with Zoom as an internal collaboration tool. Our clients are other lawyers, so next we expanded our use of Zoom to collaboration with our co-counsel colleagues. We became more outward-facing using Zoom for Rule 26 conferences with opposing counsel to negotiate case management orders like ESI protocols. That followed with Rule 30b-6 depositions about discovery issues and the management of large teams analyzing discovery productions. So by the time we started asking judges to appear by video conference, we already had a lot of experience with the platform. Here's an important resource that I think you'll want to monitor. In Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Broward County, the local bench and bar is determined to keep their civil docket on track during the time of this national pandemic. They're in the process of pivoting entirely and dramatically to 100% of the civil docket proceedings by Zoom, including bench trials. It's being skillfully coordinated through the local ABOTA chapter, and the chief judge and local lawyers are working through all of the unique issues associated with the routine conduct of motion practice by Zoom. I think they'll continue to be a national model for this experience that others will learn from, and I think they'll continue to publish updates about their experience on the ABOTA chapter's blog. One thing I'm entirely confident of is that we're never going back. Once judges see how much efficiency can be achieved by having video conference motion practice as an option, it's going to be here to stay. I hope this has been helpful to someone. Please feel free to pass it along. And the way the algorithm works, it helps other lawyers looking for this same content to find it if you hit the like button. If you have any questions or additional topics you'd like us to take up, leave a comment below and we'll do our best to circle back. Take care, folks, and stay safe.